Hey, this is Roger Eastlick, and this video is about how to run a webinar with GoToWebinar. Uh, Webinars are basically screen captures, or basically screencasts, where a presenter like yourself can share your screen out with a bunch of other people, and that you can broadcast your screen as well as your audio, so you can explain stuff to people as you go. It's great for training sessions, online training sessions, live training sessions, live pitch webinars where you're doing it for online marketing, group coaching, and that kind of stuff. It's just unlimited in its uses, and it's amazing in its ability to get people to take action fast, and increase your conversions with whatever you're doing, and really make an impact, build your list and everything like that. So GoToWebinar is really the cream of the crop, I think, of the webinar services. There are lots of webinar services, and you can get free webinar services, but you kind of get what you pay for. With GoToWebinar, it's a premium service, and the cool thing about GoToWebinar is you can have it for absolutely free for an entire month, and it's the full service, just like you'd pay $99 a month for, but you get it for absolutely free. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how you can take advantage of GoToWebinar, how you can run your own webinar, get set up, and run some webinars for the first month absolutely free. Record them with a $300 piece of software called Camtasia Studio for absolutely for free. Tell you how you can tell you how you can do that. So please listen up. But we're gonna show you right now just the basics of how you go through and run your first webinar. So I am right now at actually, you can just type in GoToWebinar.com, and that'll bring you back to this page. Then you're going to click on Login to log into your account after you've signed up for it. We'll show you how to do that in a second. And so I'm going to log in. Oh, didn't type that right, did I? Oops. Yeah, twice as a charm. There we go. So this is what the inside of GoToWebinar looks like. To schedule a webinar, you can actually just click on My Webinars over here on the left-hand side. It spawns out sort of the whole webinar choices over here on the left-hand side. Click on Schedule a Webinar. Very simple 3-step process. So I actually had one. Maybe, nope. Yeah, here we go. This is the one I want right here. Okay, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to want to type your title here, and then copy and paste it down in the description. Same thing. Down here, you gotta have to be a little bit careful with the time. They start you out like, see, today is the 25th of June of 2012, and they assume that you want to start on the 11th of July. If you want to start sooner, you have to make sure you pick the right date. Anyway, you need to make sure that you pick the right date. So I'm going to go back a month. I'm going to set this for the 27th at 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. The time zone, I highly recommend that you leave it in the Eastern time, or put it in the Eastern time if you're not in the Eastern time zone, just because for here, at least in the United States, people really use Eastern time for the reference point. And the folks, in Chicago, in the Eastern time zone, Texas, places like that, in the Central time zone, they know to subtract an hour, and the folks over in maybe, I don't know, Colorado or wherever, they know to subtract 2 hours from Mountain Time. The folks over in the West Coast in California, they know to automatically subtract 3 hours. And the folks like me here in Michigan, I know how not to subtract anything, and it makes sense. And so if I see something that's in Central or Mountain or Pacific time, it really messes me up. And I think it's the same for a lot of people. So go ahead and leave that in Eastern time. And then we're just going to scroll down to the bottom, click on Save and Continue. This next page, we don't really have to do anything. We're just going to scroll all the way to the bottom and click on Save and Continue. This next part, okay, since normally this would be, by default, all of these will be checked. And all you really want to do to maximize your registration is to do the bare minimum, which is the first name, the last name, and the email address. So to do that, all you have to do is click on Clear All, and now you've got just the 3 mandatory ones. Scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, click on Save, and email me the invitation, and you're good to go. Now you can see in your My Webinars section that you've got a webinar here, how to install and configure the thesis theme for WordPress, scheduled for June 27th at 9 to 10 p.m. And I can either click here to practice, or I can click here to start. I'm going to go ahead and, but if you expand this out, a very important link right here is the link, the registration web link. You want to grab that and throw that into your email to your list, possibly post in a forum, out there, or Twitter or whatever, to get people to come. What happens when they receive that email, all they have to do is click on that link, and then they're going to go ahead and fill that. They just fill out the first and last name and an email address, and click on Register Now. And they're going to get this registration. They're going to see it on the screen. They're going to have the ability to add it to their Outlook calendar. Click on it, or they'll get this email to them, in reminders, so at the time when it actually starts, they can just click on that. It will spawn a window, and they'll be good. Now, talking about spawning windows, what's going to happen when they click on this is it's going to install the GoToWebinar software for the first time. Just a little software program that it's going to reside in the system tray. And let's see if we can start to show you what that looks like. So that's actually going to look like this. This is the lower right hand corner of my computer. Down in my system tray, you can see in my icons, I've got this icon right here, which is the GoToMeeting / GoToWebinar icon. And if you right click on that, first of all, like I say, this will install for your viewers, no problem. This will install. They might be asked to click on something. They'll be asked to click on something just to allow them to install this in there. No big deal. It's good software. For you in the future, you'll have this icon down in your tray, and what you can do is to be able to check on stuff in the future will be to right click on that icon, and you'll get this, and you'll be able to look at your webinar schedule a webinar, join webinars, and use GoToMeeting as well. Okay. Now, when you start your webinar, when you click on that start button, then you're going to get a pop-up, and this is basically the same pop-up that, it's basically the same idea whether you're the presenter or whether you're an attendee, except that obviously the presenter, you as the presenter, are going to get a much more detailed screen. You can see over here, this is when I had a webinar in progress. It shows me on air, showing screen. You can click on this drop down box. Click on this drop down box. You can, if you have more than one monitor, you'll be able to select the monitor you want to share. You can also share individual programs, but I don't recommend it, just because it's too much trouble going back and forth. Just a tip there is to resize your screen to something like 1024 by 600. It's a widescreen, and it's going to make it a lot easier for folks to see it. Here you can see the audience audience view, the attentiveness of your audience. You can also see your dashboard, what you look like here. Here you can see your attendees, and if you've got staff, you can have panelists as well. And then you can see your staff. You can unmute some of the people, and you can mute everybody. By default, they're muted, which is a good thing. Probably don't want to unmute anybody in a larger, even in a smaller webinar where you don't really know the people. Just leave it muted. You've got your audio selection between the phone and the built-in audio. You can do polls and questions. There's some more advanced things to do, but what we really want to do for your first webinar is not worry about that too much. You just want to schedule it, pull this thing up there, and then start showing your screen. Hit the Show My Screen button. Make sure that it's set to the right monitor. Maybe look at the dashboard to make sure that it is, and then make sure that you use something like a USB headset, so you've got good clear audio. It doesn't have to be expensive, and off you go. Really good to start with a practice session where nobody's there, or maybe a friend is there, or one of your parents are there. I kind of did that myself first time, and that way you kind of get used to the technology, right? What you're even doing. And then actually you can also, by the way, I think I closed one of these, but you can also, this also runs, GoToWebinar runs on iPhones as well as Android phones. This is what it looks like, a session looks like on my Android phone. It's not the best picture, but you get the idea. It is very sharp and very clear. You can do the full screen, you can do it at 100% and scan, or you can do the full, you have it just take up your full full viewing area. You can also, it also works on tablets like the iPad and the Android tablets as well. So that's pretty cool. Now, like I was saying before, how can you take full advantage of the GoToWebinar free trial? Because there is a absolutely free trial for one full month of GoToWebinar. And so what I kind of would like to suggest, you go to webinarmission.com. You'll find a link to get to GoToWebinar and Camtasia Studio for absolutely free for 30 days, each one of them. GoToWebinar costs $100 a month. Camtasia Studio costs $299, and they just came out with version 8 of Camtasia Studio. I've used it a couple times, and it is slick. It's very nice, very easy to record, and that is actually what I'm using to record this with. Anyway, in Webinar Mission, we're going to talk about how to schedule a webinar, kind of a little bit more in depth than we've done here. How to prepare for a webinar, what kind of tools you should use, how you should go about preparing a webinar. How to build some suspense before the webinar starts. How to use GoToWebinar to maximize attendee participation. One thing you should never do on a live webinar. The secret to having confidence on a webinar, and a bunch more stuff. Just go ahead, click Add to Cart. That gets you over to PayPal, and you will be able to you'll get a course. It's about a 90-minute video that explains all these things and a bunch of other stuff as well. Gets you all ready for your first webinar. Gives you that challenge. Gives you a place to come back and post your webinar to get people on there. People on there that if you don't have a list or anything like that, just to start out, and really pushes you to do that first webinar as quickly as possible. Get it behind you. Set up another one, and start to get some people into it so that you get in the habit of doing regular webinars. So this was how to run a webinar with GoToWebinar. This is Roger Eastlick with Webinar Mission. Thanks for watching.